In the years ago that I knew Tom, the thing where we always met, and as one of the questions I said, where do you meet as artists in your creativity? And the big thing for me that kept on coming across that they spoke about is music. Music seems to be the driving point. When they started the collaboration, in my notes that they sent me back on emails, I went and did my own thing. Went and did a bit of drawing, did a bit of photography over here. And then they started talking, but it was the music. Oh yeah, you like this stuff. And then it was this, a union of minds. And then they started really listening to what each other was saying, and seeing as what Wittgenstein spoke about, is they started seeing aspects that they'd never seen before. And what we're getting, what I'm getting as an artist and as a lecturer, I'm seeing two very creative minds juxtaposing different sensibilities and synesthetic kind of qualities to say, what do you think about that? Where'd you go with that? The interesting thing about tonight is it is a bit like a jazz concert or a piece of music concert, that it's all wrapped up. You don't go, I've just popped back tomorrow, it's gone. And this moment in time is a moment in time. And in the sense that it won't come back again. It doesn't. You can buy the book, and but the interesting thing about the book, and it is beautiful, please get a copy, because they'll sell out really quickly, I'm sure, is that stand in front, I know you've done it already, but stand in front of those, the paintings and the sculptures next to the photographs, and something else happens that doesn't happen in the book, because it's stuff. The way the photograph sits on the paper and the scale that he's chosen against the object or the painting, something starts to happen. And as a painter, there's substance. There's substance in the stuff that starts to affect us, and the poetry between the two. And that's the collaboration. It's the collaboration that's happening here by a very, very careful and thoughtful and imaginative creator. Here's something's happening with two artists. And it's also, and it can happen, it's happening to us tonight in the way we're seeing something. We're seeing a film, and we're seeing the actual images. They're suddenly going to go, and then you've just got to remember them. But this isn't a sales pitch, but you too could own one. But it's like, it's being affected. I collect art as well as make a lot of it, because I like to be affected. I'm profoundly affected by other people's work, and poetry and music, and it's like having it around to bother you. And so it's about being bothered. But when you've got something by two minds that juxtaposed, and so it's that kind of journey of music. Maybe we could just talk about that a bit. But as I do this, I just want to say, when I was invited to do this, Tom said, look, would you come up and do it before? Because my term starts. I've just come back from Italy. That was my holiday yesterday. From Ravenna. Now there's a place I would go and visit if I were 4th century mosaics. And they said, can you come back and just say a few words? I said, yeah, but I need to know, I don't really know, Simon, I don't really know the way you're playing this juxtaposition. Could you send me something real, not just a photograph? Could you send me something real that will make me see something differently? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass it round, and I want it back, please. So you can open it the way I opened it, and you go on a journey. And that's what we're doing when we look at the two things together. We go on a journey because we're, what's he seeing? Why is he seeing it? What's going on? And there's a kind of enigmatic game going on here. And that as an artist, that for me is the word. Does it work, and is it enigmatic? In other words, can I not get to the bottom of it? If I can't get to the bottom of it, I'll read it again. I'll look at it again. I'll keep going back to it and going, what are you, who are you, and where do you come from, and where are you going? So I'm going to pass it around, but in the meantime, because it was music, we swap music all the time. When we tutor, I was his tutor at UWE, and I would say there's a very early King Crimson album, or it's a piece of Brian Eno of ambient. Or it's a Gavin Bryars, such. There you go. But have you heard this?
So Simon plays the drums. I learned music, but in terms of where we meet, it's when Simon drums, and the new things that I hear. I'm always surprised when I hear what he plays, and then we started to connect. We just started to swap music.
For me, that was the first point at which we kind of really found some affinity in between the kind of. I was a photographer, Tom was an artist. We both wanted to work on landscape, but that was kind of it. So being able to kind of share music and I mean, hopefully you've all got friends that share music with you. I don't know if you're music fans or not, but one of the greatest things that I can receive is an email or a link to a new record, or have you heard this, or should we go to this show? Because it's exciting, and you have to trust your friend's recommendation. You don't automatically have to like it, but you have to want to engage with it. You have to be eager to engage with it. And so we spent these journeys for hours and hours and hours. Like the journey to Glencoe was like half a day. And so you get a lot of time to listen to records, and Tom will say, have you heard this? Let's put this on. And we built that affinity through that kind of shared passion for music, which doesn't necessarily relate to what we've created, but enabled us to start building up that trust, but kind of sharing together and building up a sense of being inquisitive about what the other likes and what the other's thinking, and how you kind of would approach what's about to happen with the rest of the day.
The putting of trust in the other person at the beginning was very. That really comes through. I think tonight as well, trusting each other to commit and to journey and to see things.
Risk. Because what I heard quite a lot from was there's the challenge of a relationship and a collaboration is how much are you willing to let go, which is, I mean, we're talking about marriage here, aren't we? How much are you willing to be broken, humiliated, and kind of, that's mine, no it's not.
Is that what your marriage is like?
There's a very interesting essay by Samuel Beckett on Proust, and he talks about the difference between habit and curiosity. And the answer to this dilemma he talks about is what he calls the suffering of being. In other words, you start to wake up to that you might be uncomfortable and panicky and angry and difficult, but profound things happen. And what I get in is a lot of those moments of suffering of being. And I think that, sorry, you want to answer that one?
Yeah. That happened on the very first location. Like, Tom made me feel extremely uneasy, and it wasn't anything he did. It was that, as a photographer, I was sat by the shore of Buttermere. The view was stunning. I set my camera up on my tripod, and I was like, this is great. Took a handful of shots and thought, yeah, this is great. Cool, let's go exploring. Turned around, walked back over to Tom. He was just kind of settling down. I mean, you saw it in the film. Sketchbooks around him. I think it was a banana, a pencil case. And he was literally just opening a sketchbook. And I was ready to go. I was ready to climb a mountain. And Tom was like, And I didn't even have to say anything. I knew that he wasn't ready to kind of move on. And that forced me to think, right, well, what am I going to do whilst Tom sits here and does some sketches? So I went back, and it really forced me to slow down. It took, I had to take my time in terms of looking at the light, watching the clouds move, watching the water move, trying some different filters or combinations or techniques. And so even without saying a word, from the very off, Tom had kind of forced me to slow down. So whether you want to put that as kind of suffering or not, I don't know. But in terms of, there was an immediate sense of, right, well, we're going to have to go at each other's pace here, and we're going to have to kind of, do things as one. It can't just be me going and doing my thing and hoping that Tom can keep up with me, because that's not collaboration.
I've just also been reading a series of essays about Beckett and an artist called Bram van Dam. I've got that name wrong anyway. And what comes across all the time is, will you stop and will you listen? And I'm kind of thinking, is he meaning to the person or the place? There's some very interesting detective stories about where the detective goes into a room and listens, and his psychic kind of goes, what are you listening for? And it's the resonance. And you think, oh, this is really crass, but it's what, are you picking up the place? What are are we just hurrying through things? And I think that's where, when you're with somebody else, and with somebody else that you're starting to connect with, you can start to see different things. And again, it's that aspect perception. It's about seeing things that you don't normally see, or helping each other see something new.
That was a huge point for me, because working in completely different mediums, again, it was in the film, but I have to work on location, in the moment, it's reactionary, and at the start I was just trying to get a picture of the whole of the place. I wanted something grand that was going to surmise everything. And as we went on through the project, Tom's looking for gestures or a shape or a colour, or but also using kind of all of his senses to build up this kind of totally sensory atmosphere of a place. What is a place like? What is the place speaking to him about? How is it making him feel? How is it impacting him? And so I really had to kind of start, and the slowing down helped me as well in terms of trying to think, okay, well, how am I feeling in this place, rather than just rushing around and trying to get from location to location because the light was going to change or the weather was going to come in. What am I trying to represent? And I'm still not quite there, but actually for me, in the edit, that's a crucial part for me in terms of, I've taken potentially hundreds of pictures on each location. And so selecting the one which I feel works along with Tom's work, but also portrays my kind of sense or feeling of a place, is a way in which I can kind of build in that kind of sensory element, which Tom can do through his creation over months and months.
I think as my side of that, the sketching, the drawing from the observational drawing, that is just, I don't know how that, the final pieces, they may not, if you see some of the sketches in the book, they may not look like the final pieces, but that's one aspect. I mean, it's everything else that's happening whilst I'm drawing, and I'm drawing using my eyes and my fingers to draw this place, to draw these lines, and like Simon said, find the gestures and rhythms of places, and that's one part of the experience. It's not the whole, it's me being there, standing there for 20 to 30 minutes as well, all that wind and all the cold surrounding me, feeling the walls, the cliff walls, or the grass, everything, and the sketch is just something, one aspect.
Do you think we're talking also about a kind of a fulcrum between logic in what you think should work and intuition and instinct, which is, again, going back to that risk? Because sometimes we can be so logical. This is a lovely scene. This is the view. But how am I being really affected by this?
Yeah, absolutely. And for each of these locations, I know that thousands of photographers have been there before, and thousands will be there after, and I just feel fortunate that I was there on that moment to capture it in my way, with my eyes, with my camera, and the way I wanted to represent it. And you know, it's not a competition. No one's is better than anybody else's. But in terms of that was in the back of my mind each time, knowing that if I just try and take the shot that I know that everyone else has taken, why would I do that? I need to take a shot that kind of will take images that like are me in that place. What am I seeing? What am I feeling? And in terms of kind of instinct, like you have to kind of build it up, but then also trust your instinct rather than just because actually for me, if I'm on location and we've done a long drive and we've got up really early, or you know, I might be really tired, or I might be really hungry, or I might really need the toilet, and that's going to make my decision making, like, it's going to really hinder me. It's going to make me feel like I just want to get on with it and then get to, you know, that cafe down the road so I can get a bacon sandwich, which I shouldn't let that affect my work. So, you know, you have to trust your kind of artistic instincts, your visual instincts. You know, for me, and not be hindered by all the other elements that are going on and the kind of history of the place or anything like that.
It's like this is the scene, this is the landscape, and this is the view. What do you think about it? Because it's different. Because you need to go for a wee, and I'm really hungry. I've been woken up by him at 4 o'clock so that he can get some sunrises. And I don't really. I hadn't anticipated that, and then it's the sunrise that gets me, and that's what happens out there. You know, the sculpture, the shapes. It's been dragged out of my comfort and put in.
So that was Tom suffering literally every single morning, me getting him up.
Okay, so what we're seeing in the book is we're seeing a whole series of images. From different, from each place, there's multiple images.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about your decision making in choosing the image against, because you know it looks like there's one painting on the road, so to speak, that you're pulling out, or is there a number of large paintings and you said I think it's this one? So tell us the painting bit, and then how then the photography bit comes to get to these two.
There are a number of paintings for each place, but there is, I think, like I said in the film, I may not. I've got to work out from the sketchbook what it is, what it's like. I'm asking, what are you? This experience that is inside of me now because I've been there. How does it translate to something? How can I make? Because I have to make as a maker, so it'll work. I will just begin work and the painting, the final painting, it will come out.
But did you say which one? Or did you say, no, that's my choice? Did you say, Simon, okay, Simon, which one? Which one shall I pick against which photograph?
No, I can't. I can't let Simon choose.
But I did have a conversation with you about some of them, not all of them, admittedly. But I mean, as I alluded to in the film, there were some images that I just immediately felt very emotionally connected to. And just think, I've just thought all along, that's the one I'm going to use because it represents exactly how I felt in that place, or it builds, and it might not be the obvious one, but it'll be the one. And I don't actually think, we didn't sit there pragmatically and go, right, well you're picking that, so I'll pick that, so they look good together, side by side. That's not really how it worked. In a sense, that was the kind of a bit of the mystery of it and the beauty of it. So some of them, you can be like, well yeah, obviously that's the same place. But then there are others which you really don't get the sense of that, and it might be from exactly the same moment on the same day that it's inspired by, but we didn't want to be kind of really strategic about, right, this has to be the same view at the same time. It it needs to be each of our own kind of artistic expression of that place in that moment. And if there's correlation, that's great. If there's not, then why is there not correlation? And what are each of us trying to say in our individual pieces that are so profoundly different?
When we were talking about a month ago, you very much said that the collaboration really kind of matured, especially as it got into the last pieces. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the way you started understanding the kind of the grasp of maybe what you got hold of? Because I think there is something quite extraordinary
In terms of Tom's pieces?
in terms of working together.
Yeah.
I think there's a chemistry going on and a connection that is, which comes back to what I was really saying about that kind of sense of that humility in collaboration, which doesn't always work, where there's a dynamic of a poetry between the two things that are happening.
For me, it's to do with honouring each other's sort of strengths and skill sets, in a very sort of practical sense. So, for example, Tom's spatial awareness has led to this kind of layout and everything kind of just being very easy today to lay out because Tom had mapped it out and had a great understanding of how everything would fit. And it's a kind of there's a toing and froing and understanding that certain tasks within a project are going to be achieved better by different people. We're not thinking, right, well, I'll just do all of this because I can't possibly trust somebody else to do it. You have to, you have to kind of be humble and say, yeah, like this is as much one as it is the other. I'm not sure how to answer the question in terms of creation.
I just meant on the journey of how you got from, the first two things you said were you were really growing up in it, so to speak, and then suddenly you start to really see something and the way you could work it, and the way it was really working for you and bringing out some quite profound things for your work. Yeah. It was greatly benefiting you.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, that's kind of wound up in the kind of trying to talking about process with Tom on these journeys, and about how I would process something in the moment, he would process something, and again that kind of building up that sensory understanding. That's the kind of main thing I'll take away from this project is the aspect of trying to be more kind of aware on location of what I'm working with and how I'm creating. And actually, that wasn't something I did before. That's purely influenced by kind of how Tom processes things and how he goes about it. And so that's something that will influence all the future work that I create, because I didn't have that before, this collaboration, and it's kind of something that's been fostered in me mainly through the conversations we've had in the car for hours and hours and hours while sharing that music and talking and discussing.
The sculptures are later, I think. Some of the sculptures are they've happened after, and that's through specifically. I mean, Ireland we did in April, I think. And that has our relationship there. It's kind of describing these two little figures. It could be me and Simon, but it could be just two people.
Yeah, don't blow them away if you've looked in thinking they're a bit of scrim or something. They are two little people in that sculpture.
And that's, to me, that speaks of the maturity of where we are. Two little boys, just seeing this, being in this space, and looking back now, even from this conversation we had a month ago, even then, just realizing how the chemistry that you say that we can. I'm really feeling that only after it's all passed.
So, is there more?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. But is it going to be less, or is it going to be still more inviting people to say, where do you want, or is it more now you're saying, actually, there are some places that really have bothered me, and I need to see how they would bother Tom, or how they'll bother Simon.
Yeah, I mean, there's one place we've talked about, which is the Isle of Skye, which we both would love to go and visit. I've never been, so not that we've talked about it practically, but I feel like having evolved so much and built the trust, built the relationship, and built that kind of understanding, we're kind of at a point now where we can use that to create work. I mean, I know we've already created work, but this is 2.5 years of work, and within that first location, that first image, there wasn't any sense of collaboration. It was just me doing my thing, Tom doing his thing, and that was the start of the journey. So actually what's been fostered through that 2.5 years is now at a point where we can kind of use that to our benefit to create work that is hopefully even more sort of meaningful and has more correspondence between...
Or commissionable. Hello? Yeah. Invitations are invited. I'm aware that because this is a moment that is going to disappear, are there because we're running out of time, I'm sure there's somebody or a handful of questions that you might like to ask. Is there a burning question that someone... Oh, right.
I was just wondering what your work would look like if each of you had gone out on your own. I know it's hard to imagine, but do you think those images out there would look substantially different?
I don't think they'd exist at all. I don't think we wouldn't have done it. It just wouldn't have happened at all. And we could have gone out and done it on our own, but then I don't think we'd be here speaking about it. It would just be stuck on my laptop or something. The essence of what we've been able to create together is there's a kind of narrative to it, there's a story to it, and there's a strength in the collaboration which goes far beyond what either of us could have created as an individual. And that's not to say the quality of the work would have been any less, but it's more to do with how people engaging with it. And I'm sure Ed, I don't know, I don't speak for him, but maybe Ed wouldn't have said yes to just me going, hey Ed, I'd really love to show you some photos. And he'd be like, well, that's okay, but where's the interest, where's the intrigue? The intrigue's in the collaboration and the diversity of what we're creating.
Well, this is my first sort of landscape exhibition that I've ever been to, and that's what intrigued me, the relationship and the journey that you've been on. I don't know whether I would have just come and had a look at...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, I mean, for me personally, I think that's looking around this exhibition, the gallery here, and the way it has got an edge on understanding collaboration, a juxtaposition of things. I can really understand why they really wanted these two very talented artists. Another one.
Hi, I was sort of thinking about the fact that a lot of art today is made sort of not on location, that's made about other art, or it's made through a veil of some kind, or it's made with a computer. And so how important do you think it is that you both actually went into the landscape rather than say that you gathered some photos from the internet about the places and you sat down and did some drawings kind of within the comfort of your own home? I know you've kind of answered that question in some ways, but what do you think you take specifically from being in a landscape? And I suppose I was kind of thinking about it in terms of kind of a bit what Nietzsche said, where he said, if you look into the void long enough, the void looks back at you, and you've kind of been into the landscape to look at it. What do you feel it's kind of seen in you, and why do you feel that's so important, really?
I'd say that putting myself out in the landscape there, and that has helped me understand. It's like deliberately going out of oneself, or out of your way into this place of experience and things happening. That informs and that tells me about myself inside, my internal, like what I'm thinking about. So being there is essential. It's everything. Every part of existence. Being alive in a moment is essential, because that'll help me understand what's going on, what I'm feeling inside, and yes, there's no way it could have happened in a room.
Hi, I was just wondering, since this collaboration has obviously been so successful, has it made you curious or interested in forming other collaborations with potentially other different visual or even different non-visual artistic medium, or are you kind of monogamous to each other or monogamous to painting as a thing now?
What was the last bit? As a what now? Distracted. Sorry.
Yeah, obviously this is something we want to continue, and like any relationship, the more you invest in it, the kind of stronger it gets. I work with other photographers, so I'm part of a photography collective. If you're in Brighton in October, you should come and see our show. And that's like a different experience. That's working in a different way with a different group of people. Kind of with a different set of goals, but that kind of feeds me in a different way. Within the book, we asked a good friend of ours who came on the last trip to the Peak District to write the foreword. So as a kind of piece of prose, it's almost sort of poetic. And for us, we couldn't help but kind of have that as the introduction to the book, just because that introduces the sense of being out, the sense of being in a place in a way that neither of us could have ever written. We've written personal accounts, but it's more like, this bit was cold. I mean, it's better than that. But the way that he could do it, so the collaboration with Ralph in that sense was integral to being introduced to the whole projects in the book. So, I think I'm always inclined to collaborate. I think
I want you to play drums and I paint to that. I think that you could be a musician and I could be like that.
What's wrong with my photos?
Oh, that's just another thing.
Thank you very much, everybody. I would really value my little box back, please, wherever it's got to.
I also we just want to take this chance to say thank you to quite a few people who've been absolutely integral to making this project happen. So I really apologise if I forget you, but we've had funding from Arts Council England, which has been absolutely invaluable. We've been supported by a paper company called Jeff Smith, who've been amazing in supporting us. The printing company Precision were really have supported us as well. Fred Aldous gave us, have lent us all these easels, which is amazing. Ralph for doing the writing, James and especially Gareth as well for creating the film. All the guys who've helped with the drinks and the books, and our wives and children. And Ed and the Whitworth for having us here. Is that one? And Richard for being here. I think that's it. So can we give all those people a round of applause? Thank you so much.